it matters to DeCorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. Leadership. Uh, Leadership is an unfortunate consequence of playing in a group in a role-playing game. As soon as you've got 3 or more players at that table across from a game master, you are in a situation where you're going to have a group leader. You might not think you're going to have a group leader, but you're going to have a group leader. There are a large number of ways to govern a group that small. And you get up to 5, 6, 7 people, then it's an absolute necessity. 3, 4, you might be able to get by without it. Here's the thing. You have to make decisions. You absolutely have to make decisions. And the game master is laying down if you're lucky, you've got a map, or they're laying down a verbal description of the situation that the group is in, and different people are going to process that at different speeds. That's okay. That's how people work. If your scenario is involving an investigation or a conversation, or you're dealing with philosophy or trying to puzzle through a conundrum, then any old form of organizing the group works. You can have this hyper-democratic, anarchistic, even form of every person for themselves and every voice carrying equal weight, or as much weight as that voice can be made to carry. The game master's job across that table from the group, however, is to introduce crisis. Something bad is going to happen. Probably something time sensitive. A shot rings out, a plane crashes, lightning crashes down, orcs invade, the Death Star is in range of fire. Something happens. And now you are no longer in a situation where an anarchistic, every person for themselves, how much weight can I make my voice carry situation is going to work. Because now you have to make decisions. And you have to make decisions relatively quickly. At this point, you need a little hierarchy. You can go every person for themselves at this point in time. I have found that going every person for yourself in the middle of a crisis situation, particularly in a role-playing game, tends to everyone being eaten separately. Different people are processing this information at different rates. Someone is going to be able to make a decision faster than someone else. Maybe not necessarily better, but faster. So, at these points in time, the group needs a leader. Or at least someone who is making a general call for everyone else to follow. This doesn't always work out because people are people. So there's a couple of factors to look at when you're dealing with leadership in a group in a role-playing game. One is the situation that the characters find themselves in. Are they in a military unit or a paramilitary unit or some corporate strike team? Is there an order imposed on the group? Do they have to follow rank and the command structure? Is there an org chart? Do they know who is under who and who is responsible for the whole mess if it all goes south? Because then during character creation, someone's going to come out as the leader. Well, I've got more levels in rank. I've got more skills in command. I've got more ability to handle this, or I made my character's background so that I've got friends who are in higher ranks and they help me get to this position. There's lots of different ways that a character can get that position if you're in a situation where you need to have someone in that position. I'm playing a Star Trek game. You got to have a captain. You're a crew of a ship, and you're the command crew, and someone's got to be the captain. I have run games in the past where the captain was an NPC, so that everyone else could kind of sort out the levels below that. Um, that was a bit cowardly of me as a game master because it meant I didn't have to deal with someone with interpersonal play of figuring out who is going to be on top. In a good group or in a group that's meeting rarely or in a convention game, something that's a pickup, you hand someone the character and say, okay, this is the commander, and they kind of run with it. But in a longer campaign where people are involved in plumbing their characters and getting story out, and you may or may not have a power gamer or two in that group, there might be some conflict over who is going to be the leader. And sometimes that comes out to who maneuvered the rules better or who maneuvered the game master better. And if the situation that the party finds himself in is not a military or paramilitary situation, if there isn't a clear organizational chart or hierarchy, well, generally that tends to sort itself out. When you have an every person for themselves kind of situation, when crisis hits, you find out who the leader is. Or after a few crises, you see people trying their hand at it. Well, let me make a decision and see what happens. And if all the response to someone trying to make decisions is why are we following you, then maybe someone else. But if people tend to think, oh, that's a pretty good idea, let's give that a try, maybe. So situational. The situation that the game master puts the party in, the situation that the campaign puts the party in. Who are these people? What do they mean to each other? Is there already a hierarchy? If not, a hierarchy will work itself out. Because then you have the players. There are players who want to be the leader. There is nothing wrong with that. You don't have a lot of control in your daily life. You want to work some stuff out. You have some good ideas. You envision yourself in the leadership role. Maybe you should try playing the leader. And in a game that has a clear hierarchy, like a party's military or corporate, then yeah, okay. That can give someone who wants to play the leader an opportunity to play the leader. Wanting to play the leader does not, however, mean that you're good at playing the leader. Playing the leader is a life skill. There is nothing you will ever put on a character sheet that will make the player a good leader. You can make the character a good leader. You can give the character advantages and stack their odds of being able to do the right things in a situation where leadership is a concern. But these are people interacting with each other in a simulated crisis environment, and leading people, whether in real life or at a table, is not a natural skill. It's not something that everyone can do. You can be trained to it, you can be experienced and go through it, but let's be honest, we all have known people or known of people who are in positions of management or leadership over others who probably oughtn't to have been there. You need to be able to make decisions. Again, not always the right decision, but sometimes the first decision. You need to be able to adapt to the consequences of those decisions. There was a great scene in the movie Battle LA. I think aliens came and invaded the Earth, and it was all shot around Santa Monica and the beach. And the movie was so convincing that after I saw it, I had to drive down to Santa Monica to make sure everything was still okay. But there's the master sergeant who knows everything that's going on, and the rookie lieutenant who's trying to get these people through it. And the lieutenant freezes up a couple of times, and the sergeant takes him aside and says, "Look, make a decision, make a choice. You say go right, we go right. You say go left, we go left, but you gotta go. It might be the right decision, it might be the wrong decision, but you move. You have to keep moving, because staying still is death. You have to make a decision. Any decision." And that's not a bad philosophy. Sometimes you jump out the window and then figure out how you're going to make it to the ground safely. Thank you, Douglas Adams. If you can make the call to move, because just standing around will kill you. I guarantee it, in a role-playing game, in a combat situation, in a crisis, just standing around will kill you. Indecision has killed more people in crisis situations than the actual crisis. Well, technically, that's actually a terrible metric to use, but indecision is bad. Having moved, can you capitalize on that movement? Can you minimize consequences from having moved incorrectly, or capitalize the benefits of having moved correctly? Can you take a move that was initially a bad move and turn it into a good one? Strategic thinking, tactical thinking. Can you control the situation? As a leader, can you let go of doing everything and realize there is a huge amount of talent working with you, and can you utilize it correctly? The guy who steps forward and says, "Oh, don't worry about this, I've got it all," and takes out every bad guy on the side of the field and stands there with a gun smoking, a cigar in his mouth, and all smiling, is a terrible leader. He was a great soldier. He's a tremendous combatant. Give that person a medal, but don't let him lead, because you don't want to not utilize every person's ability to the best of their ability. In a role-playing game, or narratively, literally, that is crucial. You cannot leave people sitting at the table playing the Nintendo Switch, wondering when their turn to do something is going to come up, while one guy does 27 actions in one turn and eliminates everyone else. Had a player. Occasionally. His characters were kind of universally recognizable. They were the tank, they were indestructible, and they could rip tree branches in half with their eyelids, and just did tremendous amounts of damage, and could increase their damage. And they were fast, and they were impulsive, and they had no impulse control. So, oh look, there's a fight starting over there. The party's moving. I'm going to go over there and beat up everything. You realize there's a whole group of people. It's on my character sheet. I got to go over there and beat up everything. Which, kudos for playing the character, but you're playing an asshole. And if more than one of your characters shows up with these characteristics, I've got bad news for you. You don't... In an actual combat situation, if you can take out all the bad guys and minimize the risk to the other people with you, that's awesome. You do that. You do that twice. You do that twice every day and 3 times on Sunday. When you are involved in a collaborative storytelling effort, you can't do that. No one is sitting at that table to play the guy who runs up at the end of the combat and congratulates the one guy who beat everyone up. "Oh, dude, you're awesome. What do I roll for that?" Everyone's at the table to have a story. Everyone's at the table to create collaboratively that story, and everyone's at the table to have a part in it. Everyone should get spotlight. Not just the one guy who's optimized their character to run out and beat everything up. That guy's not the leader. The person who can make sure that everyone gets their spotlight, even sometimes at the cost of spotlight to themselves. That's your leader. The person who correctly utilizes the resources. I was going to say human resources, but role-playing games, so elven, dwarven, sentient resources for the most part. Sentient resources at their disposal. That's your leader. The person who can make the decisions and whose decisions involve everyone's abilities and input where that is possible. 3 seconds left on the bomb. What do? This is not the time to ask for input. This is the time to do something. We've got a day to prep for our battle. What do? Now you ask for input. I often end up playing the leader in groups that I am a part of when I'm not game mastering. And that is not necessarily because I try to be the leader. At the Star Trek game, I was not trying to play the captain. And our group started with no clear hierarchical ranking. But I made decisions the way that I generally make decisions and tried to see to it that everyone got what they needed. I played a character who was really good in a support role for the other player characters and ended up as captain because everyone else wanted to play a really talented individual. I've studied group dynamics. I've been role-playing for damn near 4 decades now. I've studied management. I've studied leadership. So I kind of know what's involved. And I have a lot of my dad in me. My dad was a natural born leader. The time in the Marines probably helped. My dad didn't lead because he was a master of the subject matter in front of him. He knew information systems, but that's not why he was a vice president at McDonnell Douglas Automation. It was because he knew the people around them, and he empowered them to do their best. At every step of the way, he would give everyone the best chance that he could, and he would get under them and lift them. Leaders are in front, but not necessarily on top. There are people who want to play the leader in a role-playing game who should never be the leader. Unfortunately, this is often the person who really wants to be the leader, and sometimes I had a game master, oh good lord, Brian, God I miss you, who made, if any of you folks recognize who I'm talking about, please, because I'm trying to avoid names and stuff, he made the least capable player the leader in a campaign. Highest rank, all this, and went to some effort, despite this character's flaws and mistakes, and the player's flaws and mistakes, to keep this character in a leadership position. The group had a bad leader. But Brian knew his group. And having that player in that position, with that character in that position, gave the rest of the group an extra dose of dramatic angst constantly. there was an additional dramatic tension to the game. There was, how are we going to survive this leadership? How are we going to be walking down the aisle behind the chosen one when the chosen one ascends to a proper position if the chosen one gets us vaporized first? It took a trope of literature and turned it on its ear, and what if the chosen one sucks at their job? And sometimes having the wrong person in that position can add something to it, but oh god, you have to play that so carefully, and you've got to make sure that you don't have that other player in the group who will follow the leader down a dark alley and put 9 bullets in the back of their head to save the rest of the group, because I will neither confirm nor deny that I have done that myself in a game. If you want to play a leader, study leadership. Because again, nothing you can put on the character sheet is going to make that character a good leader. You can make the character a more likely leader. It can make the character a better leader statistically. According to these numbers and these words on this piece of paper, my character really ought to be able to do leadership stuff. But if you're going to actually play a leader, know what that entails. And practice making decisions. Read some good military sci-fi. Or even, Tolkien has some amazing examples of leadership, good and bad. David Eddings, The Belgariad. There's a really good series of books that has excellent leadership, and you can tell what's the good example and what's the bad example. Stephen Brust's Jerrig series has a main character who often finds himself in a leadership position and does not always handle it well. David Drake, Keith Laumer. Oh God, Keith Laumer. If you ever get a chance to read the Retief books about a low-level diplomat who actually knows what's going on, trying to struggle through layers of leadership over him who do not, that is a great example of poor leadership leading to dramatic tension and better action. Leadership is a tricky subject in role-playing games because role-playing games, in my humble opinion, are not really best as a competitive exercise. The players aren't playing against the game master. You're not trying to see who scores as many points. Gimli and Legolas contests aside, sure, who gets more kills in this fight? If you're at that level, sure, you can do that, but it's not a contest. It's a cooperation. At the end of the game, someone hasn't won the role-playing game. Everyone has a story from the role-playing game. Leadership and hierarchy is inherently competitive. Someone is going to be the leader. And someone who doesn't understand that leadership entails as much or more responsibility than privilege can compete for that prize. And sometimes they will. And the game master can either slam down a hierarchy, not a military unit, you got to decide, or I'll hand out ranks. Or let that contest happen. Just be prepared for someone to have some hurt feelings. Or the person who has the leadership skills, understands what's going on, and steps back and lets the person who is less capable take on a leadership role, but hangs around and offers a lot of very fast, very good decisions. Or very bad decisions, but decisions. If you're the kind of person who find yourself falling into that leadership role more often than not, try not sometimes. Try to be the person who isn't the leader. Try to be the person in the background. Support character. Maybe you're the combat monster. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're the hacker or the calligrapher. Maybe you're the sage in the back who has the advice but doesn't have any inclination or talent in leading. That's a role-playing challenge. If you're the kind of person who really wants to be the leadership, awesome, go for that. That's an amazing position to be able to take. Study it a little bit. There is no situation in life or in role-playing games where studying a little leadership won't get you a little bit ahead. Well, thanks for following me along in this particular ramble. Thanks to my patrons for the suggestion. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate the suggestion, and this was a good one. I like this. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy the video, give me a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. If you'd like to hear me talk about some other subject, or you have your own experiences with leadership in role-playing games or outside of role-playing games, leave me a comment. I will love getting a comment. You will love leaving me one. If you'd like to see these videos when they come out, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you do hit the subscribe button, make sure to hit the little bell notification icon there next to the subscribe button so you're alerted as soon as the videos come out. If you really dug the video and would like to help out in a more substantial manner, I invite you to hit me up my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/ScottCorum, and consider donating. Absolutely anything helps and allows me to make better videos more often. In the meantime, thank you very much for your attention and your time. I'm Scott Corum. This is what has mattered to me, and I will see you next time on the next Matters of DeCorum.